I'd like to call the Bicycle and Pedestrian Committee meeting for Monday, February 13th. Before we go to roll call, I would like to introduce our new Parks and Recreation Secretary, Kelly Gaynor. Is that pronounced right?
Yeah, you got it.
She started about 2 weeks maybe now. She is taking Susie's place. We're going to lose Susie's retiring, so I want to wish you luck, Susie, and please keep in touch with us and enjoy retirement. We'll miss you. So appreciate you. Yep. So Kelly's got some big shoes to fill. I don't know.
I keep hearing that. I'm worried they're gigantic.
Sure. You'll be fine. She's a good teacher too.
Right up the hill for your
parents. Okay, with that, we will take roll call.
Is there a special guest on the end?
Who's that? Oh, yes, the young lady. Yeah, shoot, I forgot her name. Elena. This is
Elena.
Stephanie's little girl. Elena's going to supervise today.
Very excited. So.
I'm sitting by her. She's got food.
Yeah. Okay, Kelly, can you take attendance, please?
Leroy Vogt.
Here.
Kyle Jago.
Here.
Dale Schmidt.
Here.
Jessica Atkinson is excused. Annette Obinger. Here. Tracy Fluke.
Here.
And Linda Monk.
She's excused. She's out with COVID right now. She was going to try to come in remotely, but she must not have felt enough, so she's excused. Linda. She reached out to me. Thank you. Next on the agenda, pledge of allegiance, please.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, everybody. Next agenda item is action on the agenda. Before we take a motion to approve the agenda, I would just like to say that I just noticed that there's a time limit for the first time today on our agenda. And I'm not planning to worry about that today because I just noticed it and I'm not sure exactly what that's all about. So we're just gonna do our meeting like we usually do and go from there. The other question I have, does anybody have any trouble with us typically ending our meetings usually 5:30? And if you do, I can move an agenda item up tonight if someone has an issue with that. We can move that so we can get through it tonight.
I'm good.
Everybody okay with that?
I've heard, and I'm not speaking for administration, but I've heard that there's been some concerns with length of meetings, which is probably why that has been put on there.
Okay.
Yeah, that was a direct request.
Well, maybe we can talk about it later. We can talk about staff and I can talk about it later. I would appreciate that.
Well, this is a direct request from Mary to.
Okay, then maybe I need to talk to Mary. I'll try to talk to Mary about it then and figure that out because I was not aware that there was an issue. So any question or any approval on the agenda? Someone could make a motion for that or any changes?
What would we approve as shown?
Okay.
I'll second it.
Moved in second to approve our agenda as shown. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Thank you very much. Next agenda item is action on the minutes. These are Susie's last minutes for us. So any changes in that?
We gotta find something wrong with it.
Come on, Dad, you gotta have some.
I'm assuming it's GR and there's no mistakes that I found.
I've seen that one before too, but that's how they do it. Anybody else? Come on, Susie's got some.
Let me down in there.
And I didn't see any either. Usually I have one or two. So well done, Susie. So then I need a motion to approve the minutes from January 9th.
Motion.
A motion by Kyle, second by Leroy. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Thank you very much. All right, now we have comments from the public. Don't see anything online, and we really don't have many in here, but I'll just go through this quick. Must be limited to items not on the agenda. Must state name and address. Limited to 5 minutes. Board's role is to listen and not discuss the items. Personal issues cannot be discussed, nor individual's name, and board is not able to take action at this meeting. Does anybody have anything under public comment? Then we will go ahead to reports. Can't talk today, sorry guys. Reports and updates. And the first one on the list is Ashwaubenon Public Safety. Brian, thank you for being here. Anything that you would like to share today?
So good afternoon. Not many updates from last meeting. Chief Fuel provided you guys an update. We're still working through getting additional staff on board. One of our goals for this year is to reinstitute a traffic control officer position. We need to add a few more bodies until we are comfortable accommodating that with our staff, but we do have a new officer starting next week actually. Comes to us with some experience, both on the police and EMS side, so it should be hopefully a quick training. Then we are conducting backgrounds right now. We've got one that's looking pretty good that's wrapping up the associates program at TC. And then we're working through, we've got unfortunately a couple of whose backgrounds were not up to our standards. So we're moving on to some of our other candidates, but I'm still cautiously optimistic that we'll be looking pretty good by about the middle of the year. And tentatively, that's about the time frame that we're looking at instituting our traffic enforcement officer.
Mid-year,
yes.
you said, Brian?
Mid-year, hopefully. Caveat being that we have people that successfully pass their backgrounds in their selection process. So just because we got to fill bodies doesn't mean we're going to cut corners on the quality of our staff. Had with our departmental traffic meetings, discussions with Public Works and with our in-house staff. Those have been productive. If anybody has any issues or things that we'd like to have us take a look at on the staff level internally, let us know. I'll be more than happy to have those discussed at our quarterly meetings. I think those have been productive.
Before you go on to second, is everybody familiar with the committee he's talking about? Could you maybe explain that a little bit better, Brian? Because I don't know if the committee really is familiar with that.
So in order to hopefully address traffic control, traffic engineering type things at a staff level within the village, we meet periodically. Right now it's on a quarterly basis with some of our public safety supervisors and then also with our public works supervisors as well. So really we can kind of devote some time getting into the nuts and bolts of things. Discuss everything from backwards traffic to requests of where stop signs and lights should go, traffic light timing, really kind of more technical aspects of general traffic safety.
Because, for instance, I had a resident in my ward reach out to me about wanting a stop sign removed on an intersection. So that would be something that would go to that committee, and then they reviewed it. They went out and looked at it from a public safety aspect, from an engineering aspect, and education and the whole works. And then they made the determination, then got back to that gentleman. So that's kind of the things that would go to that committee and would not be coming to us. That would go to the internal staff. So if you have anything like that comes about, you could reach out to Brian or reach out to Joel and get it to the committee. So it's a nice committee that has a lot of expertise and knowledge on it to be able to make some decisions on stuff.
Yeah, we've had some great conversations. Shoot me an email for that type of stuff, and we can discuss it at our regular meetings for that. I don't have a formal name.
Okay.
Really, it's just kind of the staff traffic committee.
Okay, perfect. Thank you.
Is it something somebody can send to you online, or you prefer to go through? I'm saying like a citizen wanted to. Is there something on the web that you could?
So if a citizen were to just want to inquire on a stop sign issue or
Yeah.
something like that, they could fill out that same citizen request form
Okay.
online.
Okay.
And then based on the nature of the request, well,
It
that sounds
flows
like
from
a
there.
traffic issue, let's forward it to our traffic team. And they can look at it.
Okay, perfect. Thanks.
So that's on the notify button. So they can go through the notify. You guys all remember the notify button that you can use on site?
If you don't want to be that formal and you want to just email Brian or
Yeah.
Brian, you can do that, but that's fine. But the average citizen doesn't necessarily know.
Yeah,
Who it is.
Great. Okay.
Just pick a Brian and fire an email.
Yeah,
Sorry.
okay, get one
It'll
of
land
three,
somewhere appropriately. Yeah.
Too many Brian's, I don't know. Anything else, Brian, from public safety?
Nope, not this time. Just kind of everything's running pretty smooth and just looking to add to our staff.
Thank you. Thanks for coming today. Public Works Engineering, here's our other Brian.
All right, I provided you guys with a written report. I don't know if anybody has any questions about it. If not, I can go through each item if you'd like me to. Whatever works best for the committee. Okay.
Did you put in, can I ask you a question on
Yeah.
Holgren?
Yeah.
You put the ped signs in. Did you end up putting a blinking one for the other blinking ones, or did you just go with the regular
No,
one?
it's blinking. The
Another
ones that
blinking?
were blinking have been replaced with blinking.
With blinking?
So just at Mike McCarthy and then near the Arena Motel.
And everything's up now, it sounds.
Everything's up, correct?
Okay.
Yep.
So that he redid all the pedestrian signage, if you remember, it was kind of dull looking, so updated that to the latest. And the
Correct.
brighter color ones.
Yep, the fluorescent
Yeah.
yellow green.
I know some out there changing stop signs. I'm not sure if that's all. In my neighborhood, changing stop signs. Maybe they have to be changed so many years or something.
Yeah, no, so stop signs, what we do is you have to go through and test the reflectivity of them to ensure that they are reflective at night. So some of them are older engineer grade or aren't prismatic, which is the new style. So we're essentially just changing them out so all the
Okay.
signs meet standards. Starting with stop signs is, of course, they're the most important sign that is out there.
They look good to my old eyes, but
Right.
but they were changing them. So.
Yep.
Thanks, Brian.
Yep, no problem.
Any other questions on Brian's report, or Brian, anything else you want to add?
Nothing that I have to add. Bid opening on Thursday for Element Morris, so I would say that's the most noteworthy.
Just snow equipment back up and running?
Snow equipment's back up and running.
Cool.
Haven't had a snow event in quite some time, so we'll put it to test. See if anything happens on Thursday. We'll most likely be rain, so it may not be for a couple more weeks.
Maybe you won't need it till next year.
It would be okay. I think that'd be okay. All right. Thank you, Brian.
No problem.
Let's back up here. Next in line, Park and Rec, Rex, anything on your end?
No, just I guess I can give a quick update on the Ashwaubenon River Trail Bridge. Michael's construction started work on the bridge, on the landing anyway, at the Alden Station, which is the northern side. So they're building that up. There's a problem with the low water level of getting the crane or the piece of equipment onto the barge to actually drive the pilings in. So they had to go through the fast track with the DNR to get permission to fill in, do like a little coffer dam, fill in part of the river. So it goes out farther so we can the barge can actually float to get the piece of equipment onto it. Because the water's so low. So, but that being said, that permission was given on Friday. So they're going to start, they're not working on it today. They will be this week getting that built and get that piece of equipment out there to start driving the pilings in the water.
It would be cool with that whole project, and maybe you guys are already doing it, but to get tons of pictures of it and to put it out and people get excited because it's a huge project. Send our social media girl out there that did such a great job on it and get pictures as it's moving along. It would be cool because I think it would be exciting for people to see that.
They felt most of the work or the staging area is actually going to be on the Alden Station side, which surprised us a little bit. It was supposed to be on the Ashwaubenon side, but they said it's going to be easier to do it from the Alden Station side. So we're like, okay, well, it's going to be less tearing up of the park, quite honestly. So go for it.
Yeah.
Whatever's going to be easiest for them.
So. Okay. Nothing else? Okay, great, thank you. Wello, Natalie, anything that you want to share?
Thank you for everyone who came out last, was it Thursday? Thursday. We had a nice little event out to kind of bring or highlight, I should say, the clearing of the trails, some of the trails in Ashwaubenon this year. Just looked at some of our stats on Facebook prior to entering and reached over 1,200 people. Almost 900 people watched the video, which is good. And there was quite a few shares. So I know right now Mario is working on a media advisory, so we'll just include one of those group photos and we'll send that out as well. Just really want to make sure that we're bringing some positive attention to some of those things that are happening in Ashwaubenon and making it easier and more accessible to be active in the winter, even though like we're, it's kind of springtime today.
It is.
But if there is snow and when there's snow, it's good to know that those trails will still be accessible. So thank you for that. And then we will continue with the Yield to Your Neighbor campaign going into 2023. So we'll be connecting with local law enforcement, public safety again, and seeing how Ashwaubenon can continue to be a great partner in that process. So we'll be reaching out earlier this spring on that. It goes quick.
Do you know the dates on that yet? Or are you still saying?
We felt like we got a good cadence with the June, August, October, and so we'd be looking to identify those dates again. It was kind of beginning of summer, before going back, kind of in the middle, and then kind of that fall reminder in school. So.
Will you be doing anything like you did yield to your neighbor last year with the signs?
Yes, we have the signs.
Yeah, I
again,
still have my old sign.
Yep.
Yeah.
So we have
Yeah,
more
sounds good.
signs. We have shirts still, and we're looking to do some real targeted efforts as well as some more billboards and things of that nature.
Good.
So
Good.
we're looking at, we talked with Metro as well to get things on the side of buses and just trying to find different places. That being said, part of that campaign is also video stories. So I know Steph has done a video story around why yielding to your neighbor is important, but that is an open call. So if any of you feel passionately about that as well, we can do a spotlight as well.
Great. That's good. I want to thank you guys for putting together the event. That was nice to get the word out about us clearing the trails, because it's a big deal. We worked on that a lot. We got a lot of information, and the village board approved it, so that's a great thing. And just letting people know and getting them out and using the trails, I think is important. So we appreciate your help on that. Absolutely. All right. Any other questions for Natalie? Then we're going to go to item 8A, which is the presentation by Natalie Baumstead, who we just heard from, and Stephanie Hummel. This is Stephanie Hummel right here. She is one of the planners from Green Bay. Yeah, so I reached out to him after our last meeting because we talked about, the bicycle friendly application quite a bit, and wanted to get some clarification, I guess, on, how it is to do it, how much work, if there was a value to it, the report card that you get. So the committee had asked me just to reach out to them, and they were gracious enough to say they would come. So I'm going to just turn it over to the two of them and just, have them kind of go through, and answer questions we have, but just go through the process and how it was and what you did and the time and, and if you thought it was of value and the information you got back. So, all yours, ladies. Thank you very much.
All right. So, back in 2015, 2016 timeframe, there's a lot of activity going on in the city of Green Bay, as there is in Ashwaubenon, around how we're making our community safer and more accessible for all the people who live here. The bicycle-friendly community designation is and kind of was, I think, a really great process to go through, because when you are starting, right, we kind of know these 5 E's around education, engineering, encouragement, enforcement, and evaluation. But it's kind of like, where do we place those in priority with one another? How do we look at it, as a comprehensive approach, as a holistic approach? And the bicycle-friendly community application was an opportunity to really go through, in this case, City of Green Bay, what are all the things that are happening, right? How do you almost create an internal dashboard of sorts for you and your community? Because part of moving the community forward is knowing where you are, right, and where you're starting from. And so I would say the first year was really about getting started, and we felt like, let's just get an application in, regardless of what the result is. What you get is what you have in your packet. You see both the 2016 and 2020 report. They literally will give you a report card which gives all of those 5 key categories, some of the key outcomes, and then the 10 building blocks to a bicycle-friendly community. So it allows you to see very quantitatively, honestly, where you can start to place, efforts, and where maybe, there's momentum and where there's also some of the greatest opportunities. So I think in terms of a process, it helps kind of bring things together, because it can seem so big and so vast, and where do you start? It kind of starts to hone things in. So from a Wello perspective, we felt like it gave you good building blocks, and it also allowed us to then say, okay, so maybe we're doing really great in education and encouragement, but really where we could need some additional support is in evaluation and planning. Okay, how do we dive deeper there? What's going on? Who are the partners that we want to talk to, and start kind of getting aligned to this vision? So that's the external partner perspective. But Steph, I think, can really talk to what does it take to do that as a municipality?
Yes, so for the first application in 2016, I think that you and maybe Heather from the Bicycle Collective really led the application process, because nobody on the city side was really like dedicated to bike and pedestrian work. So once we were starting to put this together and the Active Communities Alliance was getting a little bit more involved in bike and pedestrian work, this scorecard is how like it became part of my job description to work on these things, because then we realized these are tangible goals for the city. This isn't just, well, we want to work on bike and ped. It's, well, we can increase the road designation by however many percentages, So for the first year, it was really like the city was almost like a support role in that application. We had our traffic engineer provide some of that hard data, how many roads, like linear miles of roadway you have, what's the percentage that have bike lanes on it, that sort of information. And then the advocates of the community really got involved with the rest of it. For the update in 2020,
Can I look this up, Ekman? How long do you think it took for your very first application? I mean, did it take, even the feel for it, like how much time did Dave spend? I'm assuming that Dave worked for the engineering department. Do you have a feel for that, for time for you guys to put it together? And just, because that was one of the things we talked about quite a bit here, that it would take a lot of time.
One of my questions too was, the amount of resources it took
I'm
you
like
to
the most
accomplish
infernal procrastinator I think I've ever met. Like, we do grant applications the day that they're due kind of thing. So it depends if you're panicking or not, probably how long it's going to take you to do it. But for a lot of the information, we were surprised to see we already had it collected. Because if you ever applied for a grant for anything related to bike, ped, or transportation, you're probably going to have a lot of the data anyway. So really, it was just, you kind of look at this whole pile and you're like, oh my gosh, we don't have any of this. And then you start looking at it, you're like, yes, we do, because we've already applied for these other things. But from a staff time, I would say collectively probably a whole workday, like 8 hours total, once I knew what I was looking for.
So did you have to source a lot of information from different people within the staff? I mean, or were you able to access that from one or two locations?
Yeah, probably two of us. So Dave Hansen's our traffic engineer, so he had all of the hard data,
Data.
And then everything that's related to advocacy, planning, all of that, I was able to collect on my own.
And then the one thing I just want to double click on what you said, applying for grants. So like this is important for this piece and it gives you a roadmap, but if you want to apply for any sort of grant dollars for this type of work to actually implement some of these things, you're going to need this data anyway. So to have it already somewhere and easy to pull, it's not wasted time to pull it, because there will be a number of different uses for the information. And in terms of some of the community things, you can always, Wello is here to provide some of that, what's happening in the community type things. So we can always provide that ancillary information too.
And quite honestly, you guys have it in your packets, and we can provide whatever raw data you need from the city. Having someone to copy makes it way easier. Because you're like, oh, this is exactly what they're looking for. Sometimes it can feel really overwhelming when you're looking at a blank application. But having the information from another municipality, we didn't give you a ballpark. You're like, well, we have about that as the city has, or we have way more of this than the city has. So it might feel a little bit more familiar to work off of somebody else's application too.
Did you collect the data off the computer, or did you have to go to the department heads and get the data from them to give to you to work on it? It's a big difference than if you collected the data yourself off the computer, or if you go to, that was our concern, or if you go to all the different department heads and say, oh, can you get this data for me, and can you get that? Because we have a smaller staff, and that's a lot of, extra things on them.
I think it would depend how you guys have everything set up. For us, a lot of our information lives on GIS, and I use that all the time anyway. So that was very intuitive for me to go there to look to see how many miles of road we have, or where our sidewalks were, where they're located. So I think it really depends on how the staff is set up. I didn't need to talk to a single department head for any of this, but we also have a lot of staff underneath our department heads. But I only realistically have to talk to our traffic engineer. That was the only person internally that I needed to work with to complete this application.
What about all the census questions they have in there? How did you handle all of those?
Directly linked to the census.
Okay, so you just linked it right to the Green Bay census materials.
I feel like this is a rare application where there's some of them where, like, if you don't give them exactly what they're looking for, they're not going to look at your application. Here, you can leave stuff blank. You can guests, you can link it to other sources. They're just trying to get an idea for how to score you on this information that you get out of this report card. So it can be very vague. It can be a lot more, they're not asking for a bunch of technical information if you don't have it. If you don't have it, you just say, we haven't collected that data. And that gives them all the information.
And say you don't have it.
Yeah. Because all they're doing is trying to give you as much accurate information as they can for this. Because if you're saying we don't have data on that, they're going to say most cities do. You should look into getting that for the next cycle. So it's not so much like if you don't provide answers, they're not going to do anything with it. Either way, you're getting this report card that gives you like, okay, here are your next steps. Yeah, it's like a good or bad. They're giving you what it is.
Yeah.
So you probably may have mentioned this, but I missed it. So your original goal, was that for a marketing purpose to get people to come to Green Bay, or was it purposely just for Green Bay? I mean, to get on their site, what was the purpose in Green Bay's mind?
I think that we had thought that we had done enough work that it was finally time to work towards designations, which can be used for tourism, obviously.
Okay, that was my question. So was that?
But it also, it looks really good when we apply for different transportation grants, wellness grants. Yeah. It just,
so there's more to it than just tourism.
Definitely. And it's almost like they give you a free evaluation of where you're at, which I found
it's like a consultant coming in and saying, you know what, you're doing really great here. Here's where you need to focus. And it's like that outside look is really helpful. And grants, like you can then pull this into a lot of other things, right? If you can say that we are a silver or bronze or whatever designation, you can use that. So
my only concern was, and that's what I was actually trying to do, is go on. It won't let me on for some reason, because I went on probably Saturday or Sunday so I was prepared for this. And I looked Green Bay up, and some of the data didn't look good if I read it right, because it was about pedestrian accidents. It was huge.
We were pointing that out.
Yeah, and I'm like, wow, it could bite you.
But they're not doing. I mean, it's not.
But you don't improve if you don't know that.
Yeah,
right.
Like our first year, we were honorable mention because they just said,
okay,
thank you. Here's all your information.
Because you're bronze right now.
Yes. Yeah. So even just having the first report gave us the information. Like, okay, so even if we just get our bike ped plan approved, that's going to be enough to probably get us bumped up to the next criteria. And now since we have that done, we haven't had to reapply in a number of years because we're at bronze. We feel comfortable with that. We've been working hard behind the scenes. So the next time we're hoping that we'll get up to silver.
Yep. And it does give you like the key steps to the next level. So you can only apply every 3 years, right? For 4 years.
4 years.
So it gives you time to do the work. But you don't want to apply again unless you've done some of those key steps.
So with your initial application in 2016, then you got your report card. Did you find that report card helped you to move forward with bike and ped stuff? Did you use that information and did it help you with your next application? Did you feel it was worthwhile, I guess, doing it?
Yeah.
I mean, for both of our organizations.
And from, a very tangible thing, honorable mention then led to, well, gosh, we need to write a grant to do a comprehensive bike and ped plan. And so collaboratively with the Green Bay Area School District and the city did a comprehensive bike ped plan, which is now the Safe Walk and Bike Plan, which is kind of the working document for the city and the school district to then live out some of these categories.
And there were things in here, so like, key steps to get to bronze. One was to adopt a complete streets policy. Our Department of Public Works is very against a complete streets policy. We've tried it a number of times, but now it's also in this document that we can say, okay, we've accomplished all of these other things. This is the key thing that we're missing. So it helps us also see like, okay, this is what other communities have. This is what they're doing. And it gives us that complete picture. So that way, even if we're going, nope, we're still not going to do this. We know that we're supposed to. We know that it's coming. It's guided from this group who talks to communities throughout the United States. It helps us a lot with that perspective. So it's not like we took each of these, like, we have to do this now. They were just giving us suggestions if we wanted to continue moving forward with bike and ped plans.
Have you looked at all at the new application? Because they did revise it in maybe it was 2021 or 22. I can't remember exactly what year. Do you remember? 22. And they added a lot of equity and inclusivity type stuff. Have you looked at that at all? Either one of you to see how much more work that would be or what?
We're just not.
Okay.
Yeah, we don't have re-up yet. So I haven't
Yeah,
done it.
I haven't.
Yeah, but
But you guys have done a lot of data collection surrounding that.
we have. So, for instance, in Wello's community health and well-being survey, we have all that data by race and ethnicity. So if they're looking specific on equity issues related to that, we could show that. So there's a number of different ways. So I think it's about, connecting with folks, and a lot of times, like even some of the things too, it's like bicycle-friendly businesses, like we do have some, so we could have put some in there.
Mhm.
I'm just thinking now, like just
Yeah.
looking at it, it's like. So, but again, it's, your best guess. I think, Steph, you said it well. It's, if you don't know, you don't know, and you say, I don't know. There's no fear of failure here.
Mhm.
It's how do you get a document so that this committee, also the village, can feel like, okay, now we have something tangible to work towards. So if staff have a half a day, use a half a day. I wouldn't get caught in the nuts and bolts.
Was there any particular piece of the application that you found most difficult, or was it just collecting data? Just the timing to collect the data?
I think it was just taking it. I mean, for me, it's always like the shock of having to complete an empty document, right? You're going, how am I going to get all
Well,
of this
especially when you
information?
see one like this.
Yeah. But then you quickly realize, like, oh, I already have this information. Natalie already has this information. Oh, we've already collected that because we're looking at our events from last year. We know how many people rode to those events, I don't find that any of them were harder than the others. I think it's just a matter of if you already have some of this information present. For me, the hardest thing to collect is that hard data, but we have a traffic engineer who can do that for us. And then just making sure, I think we had a couple letters of support or support agencies, getting those people locked in ahead of time. But even that, it's just a quick letter, so it wasn't too time
Would it
consuming.
be helpful for our village, because we're different than Green Bay and this committee, if we went through the plan and as a committee, we put down what we know first before it even goes to the board, and then we put down, well, I think this might go to this department person, and then when we go to the board eventually, we would say it's this much time for this person and this person and so forth. I mean, otherwise I think, just knowing the board, I don't know if they'll, approve it, but if we have all our ducks together, we go through this totally first ourselves, would that help? You went through the form, so would that, I have questions viable that we can answer them, a lot of them, without going to the traffic person or.
I would imagine. It's just like one section is probably for a traffic engineer, but the rest of them are, do you host a lot of bike-friendly events? How many have you hosted? That kind of stuff you guys would know.
That's what we should do together, because if we don't know that, why do we have a bike and ped committee,
Yeah, I'm sure it'd be very helpful to the staff to have committee at least look it over first.
Yes.
To say, we know the answers to, to infill the stuff that you all know and have expertise on. Yeah. And then from there, just say, this might be for parks, this might be for engineering, pass it off that way.
I just had can't remember where I saw it. I don't know if it was on my phone or whatever, but it was, I'm trying to think of the name of the city. I don't know if it was Hartford or whatever. And there was a big conversation about this. And they were a platinum. Is there a platinum?
Yeah.
Yeah. And it was very interesting, and considering that we are talking about that, it was, interesting for me to listen to this.
Yeah.
And they were talking about the trails and everything else. It was really very interesting. I don't know if it was might have been the Wisconsin Association, or that.
The Parks and Recreation Association?
No.
Wisconsin Bike Ped.
Right.
Yes,
Right.
okay.
I think that's right. Read it.
Yeah.
Or heard
Yeah, they might have had, I would think they could have something like that.
Yeah.
Probably.
Right.
Yeah, and there's quite a few in Wisconsin that have designations, I think. I can't remember the numbers, but there are quite a few cities that have been designated and have done it.
It's helpful because then when the League of American Bicyclists are putting out all of their marketing information, they have on there which communities are nominated for those things. So that way, as bicyclists are putting together their summer plans, they can know which communities they should be hitting up because they know the facilities are there. They know that people are supportive there and that people are going to be driving that are there. It's just kind of giving them that designation of this is a safe place to be as a biker. So it's helpful, on the national level as well.
Yeah, I would think so, even for employment. there's a lot of people that ride the bike. Now, obviously, we have winters, but
Yeah.
there's people on their bikes in winter too.
Yeah. They'll still walk and bike in the winters. Maybe a little more difficult, but they do it.
Yeah.
I saw a guy the other day, he was so bundled up. You could barely see his face. And I was just, he's talking away, doing his thing. I'm like, there you go. I don't know. Just had time to get anything else here. Anybody else have any other questions for Stephanie and Ally about the process, about the value, whatever, anything else that you got here?
So I think it brings bicycle education schools. Where did you get that information? You couldn't.
The Active Communities Alliance has, the school district is on it and Center for Childhood Safety, and they are the ones who provide the information for the school district. So they were able to tell us what they.
What if we don't have that?
Yeah.
You work with the schools.
Yep, so our bicycle head group is called the Active Communities Alliance. Yep.
And we have representatives, Kyle sits on that
Yep.
committee, and so do I, so
It's
we
specific,
have reps
it's
on
like
there.
bicycle education schools, and we have the school rep, but maybe we should have more education in the schools.
Yeah, that's what this report will tell you. If
Yeah,
you
we
feel
don't
like
want
you're on.
I'm sure I don't.
But that's not a bad thing to learn.
No, it isn't a bad, that's the thing. I
All
think
of that.
Yeah, this report is not flattering to Green Bay. If you look at that, you're like, wow, okay, we're way
You
behind.
got a one on this, a one on that.
Yeah.
So, the other thing though is like, just even if you don't see it on paper, doesn't mean it doesn't exist.
Right.
So, I think part of it is getting comfortable with being like, okay, we see it now. We're not at 5 on these yet, and that's only halfway. So I think it also, in terms of just an advocacy and just, making sure that, there's really good things happening, we should celebrate that. And we know that there's more that we can do, and this gives you a very tangible look at that.
I mean, the fact that we have this committee too is huge.
It
That's
is.
something on the, a lot of communities don't have a bicycle and pedestrian committee, so that's a plus for us.
Do you know what the reaction from, for lack of a better word, the powers that be in the city of Green Bay had to this, or did they?
I'd be surprised if any elected official read it. I would be shocked. We added it as part of our reports. I don't know if they had much feedback. They do, however, interact very, very regularly with Active Communities Alliance and then with our Safe Walk and Bike working group, which came out of our bike and ped plan.
Okay.
And they're really supportive of those efforts. I think our Safe Walk and Bike plan has been like the most supported document throughout City Hall, throughout our elected officials, and that came as a recommendation from our first report cards to do that plan.
Okay.
So I don't know that they had any direct comments on this.
No, we held a press conference, I know when we got to Bronze, by one of the streets that they had added some bicycle facilities at, just to draw attention to that. So, and that was attended by a couple elected officials. But that Safe Walk and Bike plan has become kind of the annual place to talk about kind of the movement on here in the plan.
But I think that's why we're here. That's our job, right? Because they have a lot of issues that are bigger fish to fry in many cases than this, but this is an issue. This is something we want, and they just need the information from us to move forward on it. I mean, I think when I just read the items in the paper, but I mean, I don't know if I'd want to be on that board, but I give them power. I mean, I give them a lot of credit because somebody has to do it.
Yeah. Also, I think that like even now that I'm looking at this again, I want to just pull the crash information that they have in here and bring that just on its own.
Sure.
As a talking point, right?
Yep.
Because it's just showing how out of sync we are. And that it's obviously a big safety issue here, and safety is like one of the highest priorities for the city.
Yep.
Well, if it is, this is one of the things.
And you probably have the right police chief to literally do something about that based on what I've read about him. So.
Yeah. So having the comparison data is really helpful. I mean, like we kind of know what we live in. Maybe we don't see it as clearly every day, but having them say, well, most communities who are getting your ranking are doing significantly better on this item. That's helpful.
I guess what I'm saying is I would never want to think about, well, okay, do we want to do this? The board probably wouldn't accept. No, I don't ever want to attack something like that. I would like to try to do it and present it in a way that they'll possibly accept it,
Mhm.
right? That it's advantageous for the village of Ashwaubenon to be doing this type of thing, not just for now, for future. Just like you said, there's more to this than just tourism or taking care of the public. It's for grants and other things that may be available. So if we can present it in another fashion and just, hey, this is labor.
Yeah.
That's important.
Well, it's a great resource, and it's a free resource. I'm like flabbergasted by the amount of information they give us in return for not paying anything for it. You know, we don't have to pay for this designation; we get it freely, and they provide data for it. It's not just a little sticker that we put in the corner of our city emblem, right? It's actual data that they give us, so it's really helpful.
Yeah, I mean, the report card is cool because it can give you where you're good, where you're bad, what you have to work on, and that's huge.
Well, just thinking of the Ashwaubenon story too, being located next to a huge NFL team. I mean, that grant writes itself, right? In terms of like trying to get some additional dollars to support some of potentially the engineering or the infrastructure or really any of these categories. So, but sometimes those types of grants are only accessible if you have some of these foundational elements. I mean, we found that with the plan, right? We found that with these types of things. So the more that you can do and showcase that it's not just this piece of paper, it's more than that, I think. Hopefully that's something that
Maybe someday everybody will bike to the game instead of doing it across.
Yeah, exactly.
We'll be out of parking places.
Yeah, there you go.
They'll have to.
Yeah.
But no, it's a good point.
Yeah.
It's a good point.
Any other questions, anybody in the committee or anything else you want to add?
At this point, I guess what I would ask is if we do, are you accessible? Would you be willing to, let's say we do start going through this.
Oh, yeah.
We have a
Definitely shoot me an
question.
email if you have
I don't want, I mean, obviously we're putting,
We're asking you to.
we're asking you to do something that's not,
I think that the more communities in our area that have this, the better it is for everybody. I agree. This isn't just a city issue. It's not just a village issue. I think like our community needs this. Because the more municipalities in our community that have this, the stronger our entire bike network is. So.
agreed. Agreed.
Well, that's what my husband always says. No one knows they're going from Ashwaubenon to Green Bay or Green Bay to Howard.
Yep.
They're just biking. They don't care. They don't know where the municipal boundaries are. So the more people that are doing it right and there's more connectivity, the better it is for everybody.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Doesn't matter. Okay, so then I guess the committee, any suggestions on where we want to go from here? Do you want to think about it? Do you want to bring it back to the committee and try to work on it ourselves, to try to get it going? What are your thoughts? Or do you want to put on the agenda?
I'm kind of with an F. I'm like, and I suggested this last time, I would like to take a piece of it.
Okay.
Because right now, I forget the dates when you can even apply again.
I think the next one's like September, October or something, somewhere around there, I think.
So what I'd like to do is for each meeting, as a committee, and this is my opinion, is take a piece, try to divide it up and not eat the elephant. Let's take a piece. And that way, if we do have questions, we're not harassing you, we're just asking one or two, right?
You're not calling the staff the day before the deadline. You're like,
Yeah.
all these questions.
Yeah, and we're not expecting you, hey, we need an answer by tomorrow because we're having our meeting. Yeah, we don't want to do that. I'm not in it. And my expectation is that you're our huge support. But there may be something in here that we run into that's simpler for us to make a phone call than try to figure it out. Because you've been through it.
We go through first, and if a board member approaches us, we'll know the answers. We don't go through ourselves.
Absolutely.
We aren't gonna know the answers.
Not only that, we'll be more knowledgeable. If we don't do it ourselves, and we let somebody else do it, we don't know what's in here.
Right.
I mean, I can read this, right? But it's different if you read it and you try to answer the questions.
And some of this is very kind of busy work, right? Type in your community website.
Yeah.
Your Twitter, your Facebook.
Yeah.
It's like stuff that takes time, but it doesn't take a lot.
It's like hand, you know what I'm talking about.
But it will take time to fill out.
But you bring up a good point. So when you did this, can you do this online and fill it? Is it like a Word document or what?
So how we did it was, at least the first time, was we had a Google Doc. So you literally just take, and they might have I haven't looked, they might have a downloadable version.
I feel like
of this.
last time I did this, they actually had a dashboard that you could log into and edit as you go.
Which would be
And then they had one that was like a
That's-
PDF version you could pull out and like work on it.
So sometimes
so it
like
might
if it's a
depend.
PDF, you could like pull it into a Google Doc and you have a whole bunch of people who are like, hey, fill out what you know,
Mhm.
and then you can just pull it into that. But if you can save it too as you go.
You probably can, can't you?
I would
It
Dashboard.
kind of depends what they have.
Yeah.
Not all places do, but
Okay.
either way, you should be able to at least pull out all the questions, put it into Google, and then go from there. Because it's really easy just to like, you read it all over once. That way you can see which ones are probably going to be your problem areas, which ones you feel like you're most confident in, and leave those for the end. Try to tackle the hardest ones first, because that way if it takes a lot of time or if it's a lot of staff effort, you kind of know that going into it.
And it may be a case where you go through it and then on the first page, well, we need to go to this person for this information.
Yep.
And you get to page 15, oh, we need to go to that person. And instead of going back to them 4 or 5 times, you
Say,
go back
these
to
are
them
the
once and
10
say, here are the
questions.
3 things or
Yeah.
4 things. So
Yeah.
That's a good point. If we could mark those particular items that
Right.
belong to a certain department.
Yeah, and then, like you said, instead of going piece by piece, you're saying like, you're going to them saying, we don't know what the answers are for question 5, 6, 10, 8, or whatever.
I
And then
remember
they
us doing
could,
that.
yeah, they could look at those.
Joel, are you
What do
listening
you
to all
think
this?
about
What are your thoughts?
I'm listening.
What are your thoughts so far? I'm just curious. You're pretty quiet.
Just respectful.
Yeah, respectful. That's a good word.
I think couplefold. One, and we've mentioned this before in meetings. I don't know that the application is difficult to fill out. Right? I don't think anyone from our staff has said we don't know how to fill this out. It's not about what we need to do. It's about the timing and data that's available to us to complete the application.
Okay.
So to be perfectly honest, Green Bay may have a more robust GIS system as far as data as it relates to bike and ped information than what we have. We do have a GIS system, we have the capability, but it's been largely focused on utilities and underground infrastructure and not so much surface infrastructure. So like this idea of going and having an idea of how many bike routes, bike lanes, center line miles, things like that, we simply do not have that data currently in our GIS. We would literally, we can't do what Stephanie did and go in GIS and find it. We have to go out actually in the field and collect the data. So that's where our concern is from a staff perspective on timing, is we could fill out the application in relatively short order if the data was available to us. But by and large, when I looked at the application questions and some of the worksheets that are required, we simply don't have the data. Now, with that being said, is it a good thing to go out and collect the data and have that available? Absolutely. I think between Brian and I, you won't find some of the bigger supporters of GIS and the value and benefits of having that data in the system. Because they're 100% right as far as the value of having that information readily available for other grant opportunities, 100% accurate with that statement. So this does get us in a position to be better situated to apply for grants and have that data available. It's just a matter of, okay, now if we're going to do this, we have to dedicate staff resources to doing so. Unfortunately, we're not as large as Green Bay staff-wise, and the bigger city, they got just as much responsibility. But we don't have a traffic engineer, so we have to dedicate our village engineer to going out and collecting that data or doing that.
What is the process to acquire that data? I mean, is it, besides a person, is it tooling? I'm not familiar with what you would do to say, okay, this is a bike route or this is not a bike route.
Yeah, I mean, majority of it is it's the work itself is somewhat elementary. It's not like, it's just time consuming. Is there a bike lane? Well, anyone in this committee could go out or use Google and say, yes, there's a bike lane.
Yep.
Or, is there a share or anything like that? None of it, I would say, is all that challenging. It's just time consuming is the biggest part of it. And Joel touched on it very well. I mean, GIS is a huge tool, great asset, but almost all of our information, 95% of our information in GIS is utility based. That's where some of our biggest assets are, and that's what kind of brought GIS here. And it's like that in a lot of municipalities. And as your GIS system continues to grow and staff numbers grow within your GIS, yeah, you start adding those neat things, you know, hey, how tall is a sign? You know, when was the sign last replaced? We don't even track that information out just because we're not there. We're much smaller.
Sure.
A lot of communities will use GIS to manage maintenance activities just in general. So they'll actually have an iPad out, and when they go and replace that stop sign, they record that replacement right on the iPad, updates GIS. Or as Brian had mentioned, going out and doing like photometric testing, you got your device right there, you photometric test it, and all of a sudden you update your database to suggest that you've done maintenance on it. We just, for whatever reason, Ashwaubenon has not developed that robust of a system. Again, it's not hard work, it's not difficult, doesn't take rocket scientists, but it just takes time. The other thing that I was just kind of looking through section C of the application that focuses a lot on education. We have an exceptional relationship with the school district here, but I don't know in the 2 years that I've been here that we've had a very deliberate conversation, at least since I've been here, about bicycle safety or bicycle education. So we really kind of need to engage our other partners too, a little bit more deliberately on this topic to get the information available for us. So again, going through the application I think is a great idea, and it engages the committee, it will engage our partners, it will engage our staff to get the information that I think is probably necessary and important to make sound decisions and recommendations going forward as you're working through implementation of your bike and ped plan. I think it was Stephanie, I think that said it, you know, this designation didn't really do a lot for the elected officials other than kind of spur other activity that then created value to the community, right? So it's not so much the designation that creates the value, it's the activity that is done to generate the application or maybe the results of it that then created some action behind it. So filling out the application and submitting it, great. It's probably more the process than it is the actual application that produces a tangible result for the community.
Do you use Esri for your GIS?
Yes.
We do.
Do you use Survey 123 now?
Minimally, but we do use it. We have the ability to use it. It's not used as much as it could be used. The municipality that I came from used GIS far more than we did here, so we're hoping to get there. But also with using it, you have to get buy-in from all staff below you that also want to have interest in using all the technology. So
we're just switching over from MDC, which is mobile data computer in a truck, to a tablet. Just that conversion alone has got people spiraling out of control because now they have to take their tablet with them into their work location and update the information versus very unlean way of like documenting or writing a note and then coming back to the truck and then trying to enter it. So just creating efficiencies alone has been interesting.
The changes difficult.
Yeah.
So one way, the reason I bring that up, so Wello as an organization has Esri. We are using it in a health and human services application for community health and well-being. We recently acquired it earlier this year. They have a really great nonprofit rate that allows us to have access to all of these systems. But what I'm almost hearing is if it's not difficult to do some of these things, like maybe it's a really great community engagement opportunity to train 5 or 10 people on how to do it. And
I've asked this question before, and that was my next question. Is what if you had a volunteer? But then again, I don't know the political part about that, and I don't know the union part about that, and I don't know all that stuff. But if we could somehow be supportive to you to at least even get it started, maybe it takes us forever to get the information because, but maybe that is a possibility that if we can volunteer our time, us old retired people that think we want to help, but maybe.
It's probably just a training and sequence and things. I'm not saying certainly not insurmountable.
Well, I don't expect you to answer it right now. It's just,
but it could be a fun community engagement thing in terms of just marketing too, right? Here's a group of 10 people that are going to go around, and then you take a picture when you're out here, and you take a picture when you're out here, and the village shares it. I mean, you could make it into a whole thing. Like, we're on a mission to try to map our bike lanes, like, you know, I think, like that.
Support
I
our
think
village.
it'd be kind of a cool thing.
No
That
different
in
than we're
itself
trying to do with a referendum in a few months.
helps, you know,
We're
build the
trying to
momentum
support our
for
village.
bike and ped too, right?
Also, like, I don't know if you guys have any sort of like intern relationships at the city. We barely do. We're just starting to get interns again. But like, this is a job that I would love to have when I was in school, because it like looks so good on a resume to do that kind of field work.
Oh, sure.
Out in the community.
Yeah. And they're collecting data like that. Plus then they might have a creative way to like input it by using whatever systems are available here at the village, you know, versus just like, if I were to do it, I would just write it down and then hand it to someone to make it pretty, because I wouldn't know what to do with it. But the younger people, they know what they're doing. They know how to pick it.
You're young as well.
I'm not data friendly. I'm the other generation.
Other than being the youngest person in this room, what may be?
I'm gonna go with my girl.
One thing that Steph mentioned earlier is when you do this application, if you don't know or you haven't collected the data, you can just put that in. So if there's things that, for whatever reason, it's not in the GIS, we could say, well, we don't know. And they'll tell us why we should know that if we don't already. But, you know, so even if there's a lot of work that needs to be done to get the information, it doesn't mean we have to do it all. We have to do it all the first time. Because I think that the first time you do something, you're just trying to figure out what you need to do or learn how to do it and learn how to be better.
Did you actually have an opportunity to verbally have a discussion with them on your review, or here's the review, here's where you're at?
I don't think so.
She
Okay.
sent the personal email. Well, it feels personal.
It feels personal. I mean, they always, like, they send conference information, they recommend, you know, different people to talk to.
Oh, okay, so there are suggestions.
Yeah, I don't
Okay.
think I've ever done it.
So if you do think if you got the report card, you need to talk to someone about it and say, can you explain this or that? Would there be someone? Yeah, so you could call
You're right,
back
it does
or
feel
get
very
some-
personalized when they send you the thing.
Yeah, and you could call and
They,
say,
like,
I don't
talk about your
understand this,
community and
or,
stuff.
you know, we would have questions about that or whatever. So you could get some more input from them.
Yeah. And at minimum, if the league doesn't have like that kind of a communication process, the local or Wisconsin Bike Fed, they absolutely would be able to answer any questions that come out of this. Because they speak the exact same language.
You know, I can do a lot of stuff.
Yeah.
But I'll tell you what, these ABCs and XYZs and everything else, I tell you what, it's beyond, it's beyond me. Put it that way. You know what I mean?
Yep.
You know where I'm coming from? I mean, heck, I'm gonna be 80 years old. You know, I'm just not no
You're
young
still young.
chicken
Yeah.
anymore.
The only difference between you and a young person is they're not afraid to do it.
Yeah, exactly.
They don't care if it fails.
Yeah.
They just do it.
Okay, so let's see if we can wrap this up, you guys. So it sounds like from Dale's comments and the nets, that'd be something that maybe the committee, and you two, please weigh in as well, would maybe look at the application kind of take pieces. So maybe each month we can take the first 10 questions or whatever and just move through it and see where we're at, and then designate if we think, okay, this should go to public safety, we kind of highlight that one. Or this should go to public works, and, you know, kind of then get a list and then maybe reach out to them in the future when we think we need some help. And some of them, you know, if we don't have the information, like you said, you just put no, we don't have it. It's not like we say, okay, we got to get these 20 data things, we got to get out there and do all this. That's not it at this point.
You could just use it to put it on a department's radar. If they can't do it this year.
Yeah.
Like, can you collect this data within the next 2 years?
Right, exactly. Yeah, is this something that we could do or thinks is important in 2025 or whatever the case may be, so.
Because by that time, Brian will have guys on board and we'll have all this stuff.
Computers
Let's info
everywhere,
Brian.
and it'll be all done.
Piece of cake.
Yeah. So does anybody have, otherwise, probably don't need a motion on it, but just that unless you think we should,
No, I don't think we should.
no. We'll just handle it that way and bring it back and start looking at it and see where we're at. And I was asking a question about transit. I would assume that you worked with Patty on that, got some information from her for transit numbers, transit stuff.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, she does all of it.
Yes, okay.
How do you want that?
I mean, and just even like some of these things, like Ashwaubenon already participates in Frogger, like you have the numbers for that.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, there's some things that.
Yeah, that you have.
And you'll notice some things are just left no file uploaded.
Yeah.
Yeah. It is what it is.
Yeah, it is. Yeah.
Do we have to motion, well, to at least have it on the agenda to review?
Well, if you want to, if you wanna make a
What do you-
motion that.
I mean,
I think Tracy's on board with this. It'll be on next week's agenda, whether we make it next month's agenda, whether we have a motion or not.
okay, so you can put it on there without.
Sure, we'll just lay it, at the end, we'll talk about agenda items and then we'll mention that one, put that on there so that it's on the agenda the next one.
Yeah.
And then maybe I'll look through it, or Joel, you wanna look through it and pick how much you wanna bring to the first meeting and see where you think a good cutoff is or whatever.
What's the first step? Where do we start?
Right, yeah, just kinda,
Yeah, so I'm gonna go online and review and see if we can do what you said. It'd be nice to be able to fill it out online, but not, sometimes with the state of Wisconsin, you fill it online, you only get to save it once and you gotta go back and start it. I don't want that.
yeah,
We want it where we can save it and we can go back to it, or we can save it in our own file and go back to one of the two.
yeah, download it or whatever. I don't know, Joel, if you've looked into that, or I'll be able to download it or.
This is so you can start to complete it online and then you can save it. It's just a matter of when you hit submit.
Good.
So,
Okay.
I can certainly go through it before next meeting and answer the questions that I know definitively, and then we can highlight at least the areas that we know we're deficient in for each section. I'll just do one section at a time. So if they have the 5 E's or whatnot, I can tackle the engineering section, and there should be some easy ones, and then from there, you should be able to identify as a committee areas that we missed.
We need, okay.
Yep, like maybe we do something and I'm not aware of it, or it's been done in the past.
Yeah.
Or that we need to hit that box, so.
I think each municipality also has a point person, like like there can be one password to get into that municipality's application. So whether I'll pass that on with you, I've already set it up, so you're gonna have to, we're gonna have to talk and I'll pass the password. We're using to whoever.
Yep,
whoever
good
needs to
point.
get in type of
Good
thing,
point.
that way they're able to do that.
Well, and even if we could get it, that it would be up on the board, I just, do it that way might be easier, I don't know, while we're looking at it as a group and, just kind of filling it in or whatever, might be easier than doing all the paper, you know what I mean?
Well, for us, like, we can almost follow yours. You printed this entire thing
Because
out, unless it's changed.
Didn't we have the application printed in last month's notes?
We did.
We did, yeah, and the application.
But she's got answers, so. If we can agree to Steph's answers, I don't have to.
I would think that Green Bay's answers are very specific.
Green Bay, okay.
Cautious of
Oh, way to go, Joel, you're
Yeah,
ruining
the
my.
application, I think there's probably about 50% of the questions have changed in format at least, or have been added. So when you look through the application, all the areas that are highlighted in blue are new, either reworded or new questions that take into account DEI or equity, right? So just, it may be similar in nature to the questions that were in the previous application, but they are asked differently. Or
Okay.
have added components to them that focus on that.
Okay.
Okay, so we'll do it that way, Joel will look into it, he'll get access, he'll bring a section back to us with maybe him answering some of them, and then we can look at, go from there, and then we'll just keep picking it apart and see where we end up, and then we'll just, send it on from there, or decide if we're not doing it, or whatever the case may be. We'll do it that way. All right.
Feel free to reach out.
All right, Stephanie and Natalie, thank you very much for coming, I appreciate it.
Yes.
I'm gonna go pick up the kids.
Okay, sounds good.
Do you need me for the next one?
Do you mind sitting for just
Yeah,
2 seconds
yeah.
for the next one? Okay. Natalie, you can take
Are
off.
you good?
Yeah,
Okay.
we're fine with you.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, both
Nice
of
to
you.
see everyone.
Thank you very much. That was
Yeah.
very valuable.
Feel free to reach out with any questions you have.
Yeah, because
For
Wello
information
can help
you
a
need.
lot with it, because they help quite a bit
Oh,
with
yeah.
yours and
A lot of
the Green Bay
that
Bicycle
data
Collective
too,
and
the DEI.
help out. So there are sources out there that can help us, and Kyle and I are involved in.
Natalie, just real quick, because
Yeah.
you guys get an article in Press Gazette, I'm gonna say it's probably, I read them at least
Yeah, we
once
have
a month,
We have a
for sure.
monthly article.
Okay. The one thing we've talked about this in the past, and is there a way that we can somehow help people understand that the reason that we want them to walk against traffic and walk with particular clothes is for their safety? It's not, you know, and the only reason I bring that up, we're fortunate. We haven't had any major incidents in Ashwaubenon, but we see it. And we know it's not right. But I really believe there's a lot of people that don't know that it's not right. And unless we educate them without, and some of them said to educate them and they didn't like to be educated. So maybe with a newspaper or somebody, a third source, it might be better. It's just a thought. Because you guys are good at
our last Active Communities Alliance meeting, we talked about this exact thing of how next year we need to really focus on what do you do as a pedestrian? What do you do as a bicyclist?
Yeah.
Because I think sometimes we think that people know.
And even include in there where parents educate their children. Because I happen to run and walk when they're going to school. So I see both. Now, sometimes I understand why they move to the other side. But those are the times I don't know that they really know that they could be in danger. Most people pay attention, but if human beings are human beings and they drop their phone or that's what happens. It's a mistake, but it's a very costly and expensive for that person that's driving as well, not just that person. I wouldn't want to be that person.
Would you like to have like a quote in there too? I feel like we should.
Yeah.
We could definitely.
Yep. Well, even the public safety director, remember on our last meeting, he was here and his comment was the concerns about people walking and biking and why don't they understand? He goes, I see so many people walking on the wrong side of the road. They have black clothes on. I don't even see them. So it's just not, the word's not getting out there. So you're exactly right. People, and they're not teaching their kids that anymore. Like Annette said, you know, is the education being done in the schools anymore? Maybe not. You know, there's safe routes to school isn't as prevalent, I think, as it used to be. Where you had all those grants and all that stuff.
I emailed Tracy last year. I was livid because the bicycle, it was a FIAD class, I think, and they were all biking against the traffic.
Yeah.
A school against traffic on Ridge Road. I was just livid.
Yeah.
You know, but I'm thinking that one way would be, unfortunately, but door to door. Do you know it? A big headline. Do you know you are in danger? And that might catch some people's attention. And then the police. You know, you have to do door to door. I think nowadays, because some people don't read the technology, some people don't get newspapers. I really think door to door in schools is where we're going to hit it. Yeah, schools especially. But what's wrong with? Oh, and it's gonna get around town. Why are they going door to door? And maybe they'll talk to their neighbors and stuff. I got this flyer. Yeah, it's hard to get people, but
even the color of their clothes.
Yeah. Well,
yeah,
the thing with
they
the
just
clothing, there's no law that says you have to wear bright clothes when you're walking. I mean, it's smart to do it because people will see you, but there's no law. I mean, the law does say you have to walk against traffic. It does say that. And so there's the law enforcement officer can say to them, you know, it's smart, it's a good thing to do, or to carry a light, but there's nothing that they can say, you know, I give you a ticket for not wearing bright clothes.
Well, I don't think we want to present it that way.
No, I know, and I'm not saying we should. I'm just saying that's part of the law.
There's so much technology out there now with, like you had with your
light
bike,
vest that I had the other day.
and my neighbors with the dogs. I mean, the entire lights up, right? And they have one around his neck. And the stuff is available to protect yourself.
We will definitely.
And the reason I just thought of it because Saturday night, you know, it was nice out, so I'm sure these kids were older. They're probably high school kids, and it's scared the living. I'm going down the road and going home, and all of a sudden I see this kid crossing the road, and I said, "Carla, did you see him?" She says, "No, I didn't see him." I said, "Neither did I till the last minute because he was in dark clothes." And I'm like, "Yeah, he would have got hurt, but I'm the guy that has to live with that." You know, if you hit them. So anyways.
Okay. Even something crazy like grocery bags and putting a flyer in a grocery bag, and those flyers cost money, but that's the way you're going to get it to people. Or flyers in grocery bags, something where it's big and people see it.
Yeah, or even having them at the library. Something at the library, you know, that they, you know, they check the book out.
Well, we get a new library.
At the new library.
At the new library. That'll be it.
Thank you, Natalie. All right,
But I'm with Joel where he was saying maybe we can get more involved with the school system. They have the opportunity, the children are there.
Do you know what we did at our schools? Our school had an individual bike rodeo, and I think that's the way to go. Instead of having one during the summertime, have an individual one at Pioneer, have an individual one at Valley View, and then the officers could come, all the kids could bring their bikes, and then we had the kids bring their bikes, the police came and checked their bikes, and they could ride around and so forth.
Yep.
But instead of having one during the summer where parents were blah, 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 why can't they take their bikes to school and have individual bike rodeos at schools?
We've been doing this for how many years? Rex,
Bike rodeo forever.
everything.
Yeah.
All of this stuff.
And it was. a
It's
lot
been
of-
years. We've been doing this as long as I've been a member here.
We also try and promote the walk to school and the bike to school with the school system.
Yeah.
And we give free passes away
Yeah.
I remember
for kids that do that, that the teachers, it all depends on the buy-in from the schools.
Right.
And some
Teachers.
schools buy into it and others not as much. That's always been the issue.
Yep.
It's been the issue about having a bike and ped representative here from the school district. We had one for a number of years when I first started with the city,
Yeah.
and he, wonderful, but there hasn't been, not that people still don't think it's important, but he was enthusiastic about it.
Yeah.
And there hasn't been someone that's been enthusiastic about it enough to take on this role as that school district liaison, and it suffered.
Yeah. Yeah. That's very true.
So just one thing that maybe we throw on the next month's agenda is the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration publishes their annual report. They usually do it in May. The last one I have is May of 2022, which takes 2020 data. So I'm assuming they'll produce another one in the spring for 2021. Interestingly, 47% of crashes that resulted in a pedestrian fatality had alcohol involved in the crash, either the pedestrian or the driver. So nearly half of pedestrian fatalities are the result of some kind of alcohol-related factor. The other thing I found interesting is the vast majority of fatalities actually occur for people over the age of 47. So, and we're focusing on kids. The kids are actually the lower number. It's more adults that are getting hit and killed than there are kids. So kids are remembering it. It's the adults that are drinking and driving, drinking, talking on their cell phone, texting on their cell phone, walking, doing all sorts of goofy stuff. So I think it's just a comprehensive collective effort to educate and inform people. And it's not specific to Ashwaubenon. You see this in every community across the entire country. Interestingly, I was looking at Wisconsin, of all the fatalities, I should say traffic crash-related fatalities across the country. I think the report said that in 2020, there was about 6.2%, I believe. And you have some states, like, as an example, Texas, or Arizona for that matter, 21% of fatalities from a traffic crash are pedestrians. That's a pretty high number. In Wisconsin, it was 8.1%.
How much? 8.1?
8.1%. So we're doing better than most states, but that's probably because half the year nobody's walking. Population isn't walking.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Yeah. That's probably true. Okay, anything else? I will go on to item 8B is discussion on developing an annual safe walk and bike report. Maybe we can just start with Steph real quick, just because she's done it for the last couple of years, and you can kick out of here, and I appreciate you saying it. Just to kind of give us how you've done it, how beneficial it's been, again, what you feel about that.
So at the city, we have a traffic, bike, and ped commission that is like the sister of this commission, I would guess. I guess I'm not sure. I don't sit on that one. But the Safe Walk and Bike Working Group is the group that's responsible for implementing our Safe Walk and Bike plan, which is our bike ped plan. And with that, we every year do an annual report that talks about the accomplishments we had from that plan that we report out to the community and to our city council. So the plan, it was, I think, attached in, it's only a couple pages long. It just goes over like any road projects that were done that had any new bike or pedestrian facilities, any programs that were done, events that were substantial, any kind of like media touches that we did that were substantial. and then any stories that we thought were good to tell. So like the first year, we reported out about like the COVID numbers, like the increase on the Fox River Trail, that kind of stuff. And then the next year talking about how scooters and e-bikes were introduced to the city and how that changed like the dynamic with people using trail systems. This is just something that I put together because I lead that group. And it's pretty easy to put together because I just email the people who sit on the committee and I say, what did you guys do this year? And then I just kind of throw the data all together. I think that it's very useful. It's an easy way to track progress. It's again, like building on this like collection of data. So that way I don't have to go back and like use my brain to remember what we did in 2019. I have a document that tells me exactly what we did in 2019. So it makes data collection feel a lot less cumbersome when we're going for any sort of grant applications. But also it's really good just to put out to the community, just say, hey, you guys supported us in implementing this plan. Here's what we've done with that plan. Helps us know what we've already accomplished out of implementation. So basically it's just kind of like a working document for us, but it is only a couple pages and it's been very, very helpful in keeping track of where we are and where we're going with our bike and ped plan.
How do you present it to the community?
Just create a PDF and set it out with a press release. So we don't do any sort of like event or press conference or anything like that. It just goes out on a press release. We put it on our Facebook page. We have a safe walk and bike page on our website, and then it just gets put to city council's packet.
Okay.
Yeah, so it's pretty low key, low tech. We just get it out to the community, but it's really
there.
just for tracking.
Yeah.
So it's not really presented to council, it's just given as an informational thing in the packet, and then they read it and they don't.
I usually do a small presentation at our plan commission, because that's the body that we use to funnel all of our safe walk and bike things through. Because, you know, I'm there, so I do, and if I were at council, I would do it if they asked, but usually we just give it to them as an attachment for them to receive and place on file, just so they have that data. Because we like to be able to say, hey, we brought this last year, and look how much better we're doing now. You know, it's like that continuation of keeping it in front of their face. So, but pretty easy to put together. I mean, once I made that template, I mean, I literally made it in Word, and then just keep adding data as we go. So, it might even be useful for like, you know, because we have that as a working group. If we didn't have the working group, we'd run it through plan commission as like a subcommittee, which, you know, so even as a committee, I think it would be really nice to have a document that kind of tells what you've accomplished for the year. It's always good for the storytelling too.
Yeah. Keep you on track and give you some encouragement that you've done something, you know. So,
yeah, that's helpful too.
Yeah.
It all kind of blends
why we
together after a while.
this
Yeah.
spreadsheet, maybe use the format. We do track.
Yeah. It's good in the spreadsheet. that we
But
use.
I do like the idea because for the board, I mean, they have their own objectives, right? So we're behind the scenes, so I think there is value in them knowing, well, what did you guys do last year?
We've done that in some form or fashion though.
So you guys, all right.
Well, I mean, you guys have. I mean, remember, you do presentations to the board.
Yeah.
Here's what we've done, here's what we've accomplished, here's what our top 5 priorities are for the upcoming year. I mean, it's nothing that we haven't done in some form or fashion multiple times in the past to our village board when you're doing presentations.
Because the only thing I remember is when we went to the village board.
On the trails? Or
Yeah,
something different?
I'm removing the snow on the
Yep.
trails, but I don't know, I didn't know that we presented, well, we did these 5 things.
Well, we've done our top 10 priorities for a number of years now.
Okay.
That's nice. Each of your commissions does that?
So,
Do each of your commissions do that? Like present to the board, like what their goals are?
I don't know what the other, I know Bike and Pet had.
That's cool. We don't do that.
There you go.
Stealing a speaker.
There you go.
And I know it's an upcoming agenda item, but we did something similar last year, although it was more all encompassing. Last year and this year, the next agenda item, you can kind of see with the bullet points. It's not fancy in PowerPoint or anything, but it's everything that we've been working on and all the different things. So, there's records of what we do.
Yeah, I just
already.
didn't.
It's just maybe you're looking for it in a different format or something, but it's something that I think we're already doing.
No, I didn't realize that they were aware of 10 top items or.
Well, there has to be. Leroy, Kyle, presented on those
Yes.
before,
Sure
correct?
we have.
Yeah, but do you do that annually?
No.
You don't do that
Every couple of
annually.
years,
Oh, yeah,
every couple of years.
sure.
And maybe we may need to make a point of it just to do it more often.
Yeah, I mean, we talked about, the annual report, and I don't remember having it done. I mean, we talked about, I think, in 2021, because I got my notes from that year, but that's, she does a nice looking report, not that it has to be that way, it can just be a bullet point too, but I don't know where it goes from here, if it goes on the village board, or if we do, I don't remember after talking about, I think, last year and deciding what we're gonna do
Who
with it.
writes up the reports?
Pardon?
The committee that writes up the reports, or is it?
We typically, I've kind of gathered up the information, and the committee has decided, okay, here's what our top 5 or our top 10 priorities are for the next couple of years.
Yep.
And then that hasn't been passed, anyway, been written up and given,
Who writes it up?
presented. I have.
I think one of my recommendations would be to tie this in, and this is tied in directly to the village's overall strategic plan. So the accomplishments that you have completed over this year and the things you're working forward to in 2023 are in concert with the strategic plan. The strategic plan identifies specifically implementation of the bike and ped plan, and the items that are here are all items to some degree that are in that plan. So the thought process for us anyway was, rather than specifically bringing bike and ped only stuff to the board for consideration, is that there will be a kind of more larger scale presentation on the action items that have been completed for the strategic plan.
I mean, take a look
This
at
would be a section of it.
Yeah,
And
well,
this would be implemented in that presentation.
I mean, take a look at page 172 and 173 of your packet. If you haven't had a chance to open it up, that's kind of what, myself and Brian and Aaron all gave accomplishments for the last year to Joel, and Joel did a really nice job of bullet pointing everything. And again, it's simple, but that's typically the format that the council bang, 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 wants to go through and see. They like the bullet points. It's easier to read and you can go through. So, I mean, when you take a look at it, there's, unless someone has other ideas, I think, sorry, I'm sticking up for us a little bit. I mean, we're.
Well, no, and I don't have any problem with it. I didn't realize that you presented this. I had no
I don't know
idea.
if they presented it, maybe it was part of
Well,
the
or
strategic
even
plan,
if they
or
gave
it
it to
could be
them.
part of the strategic plan thing, so
Yeah.
that was my only impetus for putting it on here, just that I didn't realize we were doing it or where it was going, so that was my impetus.
In
putting it on there to see.
2022 would mark the first full calendar year of implementation of the strategic plan, so I'm not sure prior to, the village never really had official strategic plan prior to the adoption in mid-2021. We implemented it, and so this would be kind of that first presentation of items for the next week. This just, again, being one component of it.
So yeah, I mean, it's great the way you put it together with the 5 E's, which is a good thing, because that's always the whole, everybody's probably should have equity nowadays, but that's a good way to present it. It's easy, it's,
Thank you, everyone.
nice meeting you.
Yep.
Thanks for coming. So yeah, I mean, if this is just to get a handle on what we're doing and where it's going, that's the reason I put on. And if the plan or what he has out here or what you guys put together is great. It looks good. I just didn't know where it went from
would
here.
the committee like to go to village board and present, what's on here?
Oh, no. My goal was just to make sure they're aware of it. I didn't know you were making it.
Well, that's what I'm saying, is typically it's the bike and pet committee that has presented this stuff when it's put together. And so does someone here, would someone like to present it to the village board or not on the village board?
Well, and it sounds like Joel has a different way of presenting it. Wood has an idea and a different way to present it. Correct, Joel? Or am I hearing you?
Yeah, we can, absolutely. The plan would be to encompass this information, if this is the information that is to be presented, to be a component of an update on the strategy. Right. So.
But depends if you want to mix it in.
Is it Alina?
With the
Is
plan
that
as a whole, or
that's
if
a
you
pretty
want
name.
specifically,
Have a nice
straight up
evening.
that stuff, so.
Yeah, you can,
I'm
you
just
can
sitting
have
here
two
listening.
presentations if you'd like. Either way, I'm stealing this information because it ties into the strategy of the village. And I think that's important to, and I would encourage the committee and any committee, park board for that matter, when you have some type of planning document, it is not just a document that sits on a shelf and collects dust, right? It's a living, breathing, evolving document. And it's important annually to take that document, go through it, and evaluate how are we doing? Are we meeting the goals that we've established? If yes, let's mark those off, because that feels good to say, yep, we've completed those things. And the things that we're short on, we can say, okay, well, why? Are these no longer a priority, or are there other things that need to take place in order for these things to be accomplished? And you can adjust your plan, and you do that on an annual basis. And that's the idea behind incorporating this into the strategic plan, is that same concept that this is where we're at, board. These are the priorities that you had set for us as an organization. Here's how we're accomplishing them. Are we short in any one area? Do we need to change course? That kind of thing. And that's the impetus behind trying to make it somewhat cohesive to a greater plan versus just a singular document.
I really like that way of thinking, because to me, if we're looking at walking and biking, that's just sort of off on one side, off on its own. But if we're part of the strategic plan, we're more integrated into the whole village.
Absolutely. Yep.
So
All feeds together.
I think often biking and walking is just sort of viewed off to the side. Well, that's nice, but let's do the important stuff first. If we're part of the strategic plan, we're not such a minor element as if we're on our own.
Yeah. All right, so Joel, if you will take our annual reports then, along with your strategic plan stuff, then we'll not plan on doing anything to village board. If we get something that we decide we want to at some point, we can always do that. Or if there's something big that we decide, okay, we really would like to present that, I think we could, do that.
Yeah.
But otherwise, we can put it in.
And when is this presented to the village board?
Well, it just depends on how much time I have.
Okay.
It could be February, it could be March.
So it might be nice if we knew, so at least some of us could be there and just see the reaction. And if somebody has questions, you can say, hey, here's the committee.
Sure.
Yeah.
Or just even if the committee's there, I think that shows that we're really interested.
I think that's a great idea.
Yep.
Absolutely. So I can let you know.
Yeah.
Plan on March, just to give myself
March,
some time.
okay.
Because quite honestly, I have to still collect information from the department heads on all the other action items, and I haven't done that yet. So they're going to be gathering that data, and we'll be piecing together multiple action items into the report.
Does anybody have any questions on the report that's put together, or the one that says accomplishments or stuff in progress in 2022? Any questions on any of that for Joel, for Brian, Rex, anything that?
Part of the conversation too is if we missed anything.
Right.
So everybody had their own little idea on what should be included, but if we miss something, we'd be more than happy to include it. So.
Can I ask a quick question for the looking forward in 2023? So we're going to be doing an intersection improvement at the San Luis. Is that what that's saying, or is that like a placeholder for that, or is that what we're doing for sure with
San
that?
Luis Cormier.
Yep.
That project was bid last year, and it was not completed because of bid pricing. So that intersection is planned to be incorporated this year as part of our bid project.
So when you say that, what's going to happen then at that intersection? Are they going to relocate push buttons, or do you know what they're doing?
Yeah. So there's certain locations where there is existing push buttons that are currently there. However, there's not an improved surface or paved surface that works your way towards those buttons.
Yep.
So in some locations, some of the quadrants, they're just pouring those additional improved surfaces. In other locations, they're actually installing pad push buttons that are closer to the existing sidewalk. So it all kind of depended on where the existing infrastructure was, if they could make it work, or if they had to install a new base and pedestrian push button.
So maybe closer to the crosswalk, if it was way far, half a block away or whatever, then it might be relocated over there.
Correct.
So San Luis will be one that you'll be doing in 2023. That will be the only intersection that will be done.
Correct. Yep. And it all depends on what bid prices come in at. It is something that we plan to put out to bid in March. And then we will review, bid pricing and see, ultimately the board will have the ability to award or deny the contract.
There's a couple other ones that are loosely tied to that. Obviously, Morris Element, those are out to bid right now. Those are going to come in, so they're going to get done. I'm not worried about those. But we bid out the Brett Favre Pass project last year, Bark Star Pass project last year. Those were delayed because of bid pricing. I'm assuming they'll get done. The Brett Favre Pass one is an interesting one because we have a potential development that could be impacting that. So it may make more sense to delay the actual installation of the sidewalk for after the fact. So it's going to get done. It's just a matter of timing and when. So.
Any other questions on report? Anybody or think something that we did that wasn't on there? I kind of looked through it and we did a lot of stuff in 2021. I mean, ordinance changes and stuff, and obviously not 2022. When I kind of look back at my notes, but I didn't think of anything that I thought was missed on there in 2022 when I looked back, but I don't know if you guys, anybody else has anything, but.
Well, I don't see it. We talked about trails, but there's that great new trail in Sherwood Forest Parkway that gets used a real lot.
Yeah.
It was 21, I think. That was 21.
That's what was that?
You can put it in 22 to just give myself credit twice.
There you go. There you go.
Well, that's strategic.
That's strategic, yeah. All right, if there's nothing else, then we'll move on to 9, which is the next Bike and Ped meeting is scheduled for Monday, March 13th. Agenda items that I have is working on the bicycle-friendly application, a section of that. Joel, if you wanted to bring the NHTSA report that you mentioned and kind of review that with us.
It's in your email.
Oh, you sent it out already?
Yeah.
Oh. So do you want to bring that, or do you think we can just look at it, or just?
Take a look at it. Let us know if you want it on the agenda.
Okay, sounds good. And then one more. Oh, I was wondering, can we put on the agenda? It was on the list. I feel like I forgot about Ridge Road near the Capital Credit Union building with the new YMCA that's going in there. If we can kind of look at that area for bike and ped accommodation and see.
So it's not.
Pardon me?
Sorry, you mind if I tell her what?
Let's put it on the agenda so it's on an agenda to discuss because it's not technically on an agenda to discuss.
Okay.
Put it that way.
Okay, so can that be, please put on the next month, March, for the new YMCA on Ridge Road, discussion of bike and a ped, bicycle and pedestrian accommodations. Any other agenda items anybody have? Otherwise, it come up to anybody, let's go over. I can ask you a question too. Who's actually the liaison for this committee? Because am I supposed to write Rex or Joel, or do you want things? Who's doing it? Because I
think it's a joint effort. It's turned into more of a joint effort.
Okay, so when things
just because there's so many things. I mean, I and obviously I started out as
right.
with how things are growing and evolving in the village. I mean, Aaron has been in here a lot, and so. Because I can't answer stuff with Aaron, so he's been here, and then Doug, and now Brian's in here, and Joel's been sitting in on all the meetings. So I don't know if we have a singular.
Well, just and we can talk about later. But
Rex and I work really well together, and just
okay. So when
who's got what going on, and it's going to be based on. Okay, Rex is really busy this week, so I'll take this.
Okay.
And I know where he's at. So.
Okay. So anything with bike ped, then I should send to both of you is what you're telling me.
That works.
Okay. Any other comments or anything? Otherwise, I would move for motion to adjourn.
I'll motion to adjourn.
You can get up.
Motion to adjourn.
Motion by Dale and a second by Leroy to adjourn at 5:04. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? You're opposed, you can sit here all night.
No, you can't actually.